Hello, I'm Terry Francis, Associate Professor of Cinematic Arts at the University of Miami, where I'm also Associate Dean for Inclusion and Outreach. I'm the author of Josephine Baker's Cinematic Prism, published by Indiana University Press, and I'm a 2021 Andy Warhol Foundation Arts Writers grantee for my new book on Kevin Jerome Everson, the first book on the filmmaker Kevin Jerome Everson. I'm here tonight to talk to you about Spike Lee's Malcolm X. And I'm delighted to talk about this film. I taught a course on Spike Lee for many, many years at Indiana University. And for really all of my career, actually, every fall, Spike Lee's film works. And the film that we're going to talk about is, in some ways, a multi-layered intertextual text. It is an adaptation of the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. It incorporates material from James Baldwin's script or draft of a script for this film. The film was many, many years in the making, and Spike Lee put himself forward for this film. He was the Black filmmaker of the 1990s, both independent and commercial. He funded his films independently with 40 Acres and a Mule, reference to Reconstruction, the decade of potential, or maybe not quite a decade, the years of potential between the end of the Civil War and the beginning of Jim Crow. Reconstruction ends with the Hayes Compromise. That Rutherford Hayes could be president if they removed the troops from the South, thereby leaving the newly freed population to be vulnerable to the violence of um, their former owners. And so 40 Acres and a Mule is a reference to the plot of land and the tools that were promised and promised and never fulfilled. So Spike Lee already enters into or draws from history in that way. But that's not to say that Malcolm X, the film, is a work of history. It is a creative work. It's an adaptation of an adaptation. It includes a number of cinematic references. It includes an extended musical sequence. There's a quotation from Ace in the Hole. It also incorporates then contemporary materials, the footage of Rodney King's police beating, which was recorded by George Holliday. And how can we look at that footage without thinking about our own moment, the long 2020 that includes Darnell Fraser's footage, a recording of George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis in 2020. So it's a film then that begins with the King footage, with Holliday's King footage. It begins again, and then it begins again. It ends, and then it actually begins again. It's a multi-layered film in terms of how it treats time and how it's structured. It is in many ways, yes, the autobiography of Malcolm X. It is also the autobiography of Spike Lee. This is his sixth film. It marks a certain place in his career. So he's done She's Gotta Have It in 1986, and then School Days, and then Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, and Jungle Fever, and then Malcolm X. It is a film on a grand scale, on an epic scale. If you remember, She's Gotta Have It takes place largely in a living room or bedroom, actually, Nola's bedroom. Do the Right Thing takes place on a block. School Days, it's homecoming weekend. And so these are, in that sense, they're kind of small films. They're not small, but it's a galaxy in a small place. And Malcolm X is a galaxy in the galaxy. It's we are in the American South. We are in New York. We are in Cairo, walking among the pyramids. We are in Mecca. It's a huge scale in that way, and it's also a big scale in terms of time, beginning in 1992. Then it goes backwards to the 60s. Then it goes back again to Malcolm X's childhood. And then we go follow him more or less through his adulthood. So it's a film that really moves across time. It is a big film. It also has small moments that are quite striking, incredible performances from Delroy Lindo, um, and moments, enigmatic moments. There's a blonde character that Detroit Red gets involved with, and I just remember the light on her hair, the light on the metallic surface of the car, and how those are brought into this incredible visual rhyme. And we are invited to think about the aspect of Detroit Red that is fascinated with whiteness, that is and whiteness as property, as status. There's a tense and unsettling power struggle between these two characters, and blonde is the vehicle for this. As Tressie Cottom explains about blonde as a kind of constructed status, and proxy for whiteness. Um, the um, the film explores Malcolm X's iconicity in ways that I think are maybe evident to us today. It's a beautiful film, very watchable, absorbing film, and yet there was quite a bit of substantial opposition to it, and to Spike Lee being the author of Malcolm X's story. There was an op-ed: Spike, don't mess Malcolm up. Can't be any clearer than that. There was the criticism of Spike Lee from Amiri Baraka, Houston Baker, really centered on their sense of him as someone who played with history rather than doing serious historical work, someone who was independent yet seemed to want to be part of Hollywood. So he wasn't a trustworthy messenger for this story. And Spike Lee and Denzel Washington have talked about keeping their passports in their pockets in case they had to make a run for it. So the complexity was real, and I think really this is why I begin by saying we need to think about this film as Spike Lee's Malcolm X. It is very much about this adapting the as told to story. And it's also Spike Lee exploring his own creativity with his film references in Do the Right Thing. He's quoting from Night of the Hunter, the right hand and the left hand. And in this film, he's quoting from Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole, while he's also quoting from Alex Haley. So his subjectivity and his authorship is very much um, uh, woven into the story that he's telling about Malcolm X. A transformative figure, and a figure who himself went through a number of significant transformations, which we get to experience through this film. As Spike Lee always said, these films are the beginning. They are not the end point. And so there are we appreciate the film, as a film for what it offers. I wish you a rich experience, a good experience and discussion about this film. And thank you very much for the opportunity to um, introduce the film. Good night.